Alright, here is video review for GCreation's THUNDEROUS, part of their Shuraking combiner, their Dinobot combiner that is coming out. There's a couple companies making Dinobot combiners, Toy World being the other one of note. And I meant to bring in Toy World's Muddy as a comparison for him, and when I brought this in the first time to review, I had him, and I totally forgot him tonight. And we'll get to the first review here. We'll mention that later on in the video. But just for comparison, just to give you an idea, there's Robots in Disguise Deluxe Grimlock. So he's fairly sizable here in dinosaur mode. Toy World's Muddy would be about, come up to about here. A little smaller than THUNDEROUS here. He comes with a little bio card. You can see Combiner's Legend, Strong Deformation, Shuraking SRK-01 THUNDEROUS. That's the name, with his little bio on the back. In pictures, and again, it's a stiff, like, kind of credit card plastic that you get with this, and you get the instruction sheet as well in a little baggie. Those come in a baggie, and that's all there is to it. Now here is Shuraking himself, or THUNDEROUS himself, not Shuraking, and he's got you can get a little bit of posability out of the tail. That's mostly a transformation joint, but it is there if you want to bend his tail a little bit. His head does have a ball joint right here at the neck, as well as a hinge here, so you can get his head in a lot of various positions. His mouth does open, and he does have a little hidden flamethrower / gun there inside of his mouth. But again, no articulated neck. A lot of people are looking for articulated necks. The Fans Project version does have the joints in the neck. Muddy and THUNDEROUS here just have... I was hoping maybe this was a twisty joint as well on this gold piece, but you can see the tab right in there in the plastic. This is all solid. The only movement in the neck is this right here. The legs themselves have a little bit more range of motion. They've got, that's again, shoulder joint, transformation joint there, but you've got a decent range of motion both in this direction and at the swivel there on the front leg, as well as where the elbow joint for robot mode is. You can bend it there. And the front toe is on a ball joint as well, so you can get a decent range of posability out of his front legs on either side. And same with the back leg. It doesn't have quite as much swivel motion here as the front leg does, but it does work in this direction, as well as the, you can hear that clicky ratchet there, and then the toe joint. So there's not a whole lot of posability, and again, the tail is pretty much fixed in place aside from this hinge and this hinge back here. And this one's really the only hinge that I feel is a dyno mode hinge. The rest of it kind of feels like that's really there for transformation when you flip his tail up. But yeah, all in all, it's not any less articulated, and actually more articulated than the old G1 toy. So yeah, he's a Brontosaurus. I'm going to say Brontosaurus now because I know there's Brachiosaurus and all that stuff, but apparently there's a report that came out recently that says maybe Brontosaurs were actually real, so or Apatosaurus. So I'm going to call him a Brontosaurus because I've always called him a Brontosaurus. Weapon-wise, he comes with 2 swords. These are mostly set up to use just in robot mode. You can see the way that handle works. It fits in his robot mode hand, but it doesn't allow it to peg in anywhere because of this forward handle on the swords. But a couple of swords each. He comes with 2 large rifles. Now, I thought these were part of the feet, and we'll get to the foot piece. And we'll get to the foot piece in just a second. It has a peg back here. Now, it's got like a regular handle right here that looks like a gun handle, but he actually holds it in robot mode by this little peg here on the back. He does have there are a couple little pegs here on the side that can flip out and allow you to attach it to his dinosaur mode. Whether you want to plug it in here into the back of back legs, you can plug it up here on the forward legs. There's a couple little post holes that will let you do that with that flip out peg. It also allows you to store it on the shoulder in robot mode, and we'll show that off when we get there. And last but not least, since he is a combiner, here is the foot piece, and it is huge. It's got some shiny gold chrome up here. And you can see you can see that the ends of these cannons are similar-ish, but yeah, there's the foot. I thought this was going to turn into these hand cannons, and it does not. It does, however, we'll show that in a minute. It does turn into some cannons for dinosaur mode. But you see there's the foot piece, and before we get into, we'll show the foot off later in the video. But you can see here's it's got a nice strong ratchety hinge here. This whole piece can lift up, and it does help when putting him into foot mode. But you got a nice strong ratchet here and here on these pieces, as well as a very tight ball joint down here in the bottom. So when you've got the foot attached like this, you get a good range of, you can rotate down here on that ball joint It's nice and sturdy, as well as you've got a lot of range of motion there in that ball joint in the bottom of the foot, as well as the toes do tilt up and down. The heels do not move at all, but so there's a decent range of motion in the foot. We'll see how that works when the whole combiner's out, which looks like it's going to be huge. But yeah, so just looking at the foot by itself, you can see that there's a pretty decent range of motion built into that. Now, like I said, the foot does transform. The foot does split in half here. Just kind of pull it apart in front and back. This piece comes out. Once it gets set off to the side, the joint itself, and here's a better look at how that joint's constructed, also comes out of the foot. And then these pieces right here, you can see there's a peg here that flips out. So you can take these. There's a black piece in here, and I think that may just be filler. I can't find any way to get that out. The instructions don't show any use for pulling that out. But you can flip the pegs out here on these foot pieces. Here, I've got a pen here for just this reason. They're pretty stiff, but you can flip these pegs out. And you can also attach these to the dinosaur mode. Either, you can do them this way. You can flip them, if you'd rather have them face this way, you can flip them over and attach them like that as well. Get this. Pry that peg out. So yeah, if you wanted to have it so you don't see this big gap right here, you can flip them on either side and have them sit more like that. I think they look more from the top, unless you're looking from the underside, I think they look a little bit more like proper guns from if you put them on this way. So yeah, you can have him heavy armed and loaded for bear with some rather large guns made up from the foot. So let's go ahead and put the foot back together. And again, the hollow side of this faces the back. Is how you know how to put it in. It just tabs in right there like that. The foot joint pegs in to the side like that. And it's the same on both sides. So you just attach them into one side of the foot and then take the other half of the foot and just squeeze it back together. Oh, wait, flip these pegs in. These pegs will prevent it from going back together, as it turns out. So yeah, slide those together, plug it in, make sure this stays straight, plug it in back there, snap it all together, and there's the foot piece. We'll get to that again later on in the video. Now, transforming from dinosaur to robot mode, it's a little more complex than your standard sludge transformation. There's some bits in the legs that are a little bit more involved, but all in all, it's the basic transformation you're expecting. Arms, these flip down and form the legs. This folds back behind the head. Head flips up. Very basic. So yeah, so we open up these panels right here. Just bring those down to the sides like that, and that will let you get back here. Fold the legs up, and you can see there's a little peg here for them to stick in, but you want to fold them out of the way here because you want to bring this tail piece out, split the tail in half. And these, lift them up. You can see these rotate out like that. These panels right here open up on the legs. These pieces right here, there we go. Open those up, and here you can see the waist piece and this knee joint actually, to peg the hole, split the legs all apart here, actually pulls up and rotates up like that. And that's, again, that'll go back to the foot mode later on. So you bring that up and then rotate it around like that. Push the hip up, and then this piece folds down, this piece folds up, and then this whole piece folds in to form the bottom of his foot. This piece folds down like this, and this piece folds in and around just like that. This piece doesn't seem to lock in. It just kind of goes around. Oh, it does tab in. It pegs in right there on the gray piece, the darker gray piece, and it plugs in just like that to form the leg. Do the same thing over here. Bring this up and around. Fold this down, fold this up, and fold this whole panel in. And again, you can see there's a little peg here that's going to peg in right up here. To form that, this piece comes around, fold the tail up, fold this in like that, and then just peg this peg right in here to this. You may need to get some support behind this because this piece does bend a little bit when you put pressure on it. So just peg that in. Come on. There we go. And then you take the, I'm going to push the hip up, rotate the leg around to the back, and you can see there's a peg here, actually like this, there's a peg here for the knee right on the inside there. There's a peg that pegs into. Fold the leg up, just like that. And again, with this being on the ball joint, you can kind of fold it down, or you can fold it up however you want to display that foot, that toe. It just pegs on just like that. And same over here. Bring it down, bend this back, and there's that peg again right here, just so you can see where it's at. Peg that on, flip that up, and the legs are done. And then you rotate the whole thing around at the waist to bring it up like that. Coming up here to the upper body. Just flip the arms forward and around like this. These can fold up. And again, you see you've got that extra arm. This piece comes out to give him a little bit more range of motion in the shoulders, although you can leave it flat up against the body if you want. Bring this forward, open up. There's a couple of tabs here that peg into this, but bring this foot down, flip out the fist, plug this back in up here, pull that up, and same on this side. Open that up, flip the foot up. You see there's a little groove here that these little tabs will plug into when you got it lined up right, so it'll lock it in place. Now the fists don't open, they're solid fists with a peg hole in them. They do have a wrist swivel though, which is nice. The dinosaur head, per usual, comes back and just folds down along his back. There's a hinge here and a hinge here, so you fold it down along his back, and you can take the dinosaur head and kind of fold it up and just hang it back there between his legs. Now the head, and this is where you want to be careful, and this is what I was talking about with my first one. Come on. There we go. Those hips get on line. One, I like the wings. You can leave them down like this. They have a hinge that lets them rotate back like this, as well as a hinge that lets them come up. So you can have them at more, they don't have to just sit there off to the side like that. You can kind of pull them back and angle them up a little bit to your liking. Now the head resides in here, but he's got a very thin neck joint. So in order to do this, in order to transform it, you want to open this up as well as pull this whole piece forward. And you want to grab it by this red piece. You don't want to use the head itself as leverage because it's not super tight, but it's a pretty stiff rotational joint in there. And you want to make sure, like I said, you want to make sure you grab it by here and then fold this up and lock it into place. And there's robot mode. If you don't do that, you end up with something like this. Now this is how my first one came in box, broken like this. It was a little tight in the blister, and you can see that peg is not. You can see kind of the white spot there. It's not a very thick peg, even though he's got this thicker neck down here. The peg hole is just that little white spot right there. So it is a very thin peg. You don't want to use the head as any sort of lever. You don't want to push on the head itself. Move it by that red joint, the way I showed it, because that really is the best way to transform that without risking popping the head off. And push this peg back down. I'll try to fix that later. So yeah, here he is in robot mode. Get him fully in frame here. Very good focus. And he's got, again, like I say, he's got the swords and the guns. You could conceivably pull this apart and peg it onto his shoulders, but at this point in his robot mode, this is a little bit more heavy artillery than you really need. Like I said, he does have his giant guns, and again, you flip this peg out. He doesn't hold it by this handle, and you can slide it into his hand there, and it just fits in front of this fixed foot piece there, but you can give him his giant cannons. As mentioned, you can flip out these little pegs here on the side, and you can attach those to his shoulder if you want. And then, of course, like I said, this front guard, it has enough of a gap to fit in his hand. You can see like that, it fits right there like that, but because that's so long, it doesn't allow you to really peg it in anywhere else. I mean, he's got the wrist swivel. So there he is with both. I'll go ahead and pop this one off so you get the idea. There he is with his gun and his sword. And it looks like he's a heavy weapons guy. He's loaded for bear, and he is going to probably wreck you, like the way I imagine Sludge generally would. I always picture him as like one of the big brute brawler guys of the Dinobots. So there's that. He's got, like I said, he's got the ball jointed head, which is nice for lets him look up and around. He gets a little bit of a downward movement. Again, the collar kind of blocks it from him looking down in much angles other than I guess you get him into the corner of the collar. He can kind of look down like that, like he's got some dandruff or something. But a good range of motion in the head. He's got the swivels on the arms, as well as there's a double joint in there that lets you raise him up a little bit. If you want to bring him out more to the side, you can do so. Again, you can kind of see, you can slide him up a little bit there. So you can bring his arms out a little bit, give him a little bit more freedom to move his shoulders in this direction. He does have a bicep swivel. He's got the dual jointed elbows. He's got the elbow joint here, and the ratcheting joint up a little higher. The wrist swivel. He does have a waist swivel. Universal joints at the hips. Lets you move it this way and this way, as well as forward and back. You've got a thigh swivel and ratcheting knees. And his feet are on ball joints down here, so you get a little bit of a tilt to them, as well as a forward movement. You can see they slide out a little bit to allow the toe to have a little bit more range of motion. But other than that, the rest of the foot is fixed. So while you can get him in wider stances and have his feet flat, but the rest of his legs don't bend at all. They're behind the toe. But it doesn't, the look is the same, and he does support himself fairly well in wider stances, which is nice. And again, you've got the ability to position these, like I said, however you want. You could fold them all the way back if you want, but that looks a little silly from the side there. And again, just because he's what I had with me, go ahead and bring his arms in a little bit more. Here he is in robot mode, again with the Rid Deluxe Grimlock. So you can see he's much larger, like a Voyager stands about here. So he's kind of basically old Ultra class. If you think about that, he's roughly the same size as the current leader Megatron. And he's certainly more massive. Like, he's got a little bit more weight to him. I don't know if there's any die cast in this. There's a lot of shiny plastic from the chrome on the hips and the shiny red paint here. But I don't, like, it all feels like plastic. I don't know if there's any actual die cast in this. Not anything that I've noticed. Maybe this waist piece, I can't tell. But yeah, so there he is in robot mode. And it's cool. Now, to get to the leg mode, it's kind of a halfway mishmash between robot mode and dinosaur mode. We'll go ahead and get the foot out here. So the first thing we're going to do is tilt this forward, open this up, flip his head back in, rotate his head down like that, and close that back up. Get his head down in there. Rotate his arms up, rotate his fist back in, and bring these kind of up and around like this. Lock that in place. And then you close these silver panels up here on the upper body. And again, since this comes forward, you kind of tilt this down forward. This is going to be like the upper half of his leg. Now, the combiner joint back here, it's right here on the back of his backpack. And the instructions even show you using like a stick or something to move it. It's a very tight joint. The last couple of clicks, you can push it in when you're transforming back with your thumb. But it does say to use a lever. I've got a pen here with a pen with a pen cap. You just stick it in there and kind of pry it up to a certain point, and then you can fold the dinosaur head back down past it and then come up from above and flip it the rest of the way up here. So you can see it's a nice, tight, solid... Now, once you have the leverage of connecting it in combine mode, that should move a little easier, but it isn't a very solid, tight connector joint there. And let me show you in the instructions what I'm talking about. Like, even here, it shows on the sheet in order to move this, like it's like a hand putting a stick into the ratcheting joint. Like, it doesn't come with a tool for it. I thought maybe you could use this piece from the foot for it, but it doesn't fit in there. So you have to use some sort of, it does say use a lever to move this ratcheting joint here. Just before everybody gets on me for doing that, that's actually in the instructions. Use an outside lever. So we'll get to the rest of this up here. So tilt this forward. And then the legs, you're going to kind of transform like you're going back to dinosaur mode, except you open these up, flip this up, and rotate this all the way up like this. And then the legs, instead of rotating them all the way, or instead of rotating them around and flipping them around, you just bring this this piece down. You just kind of collapse the legs using this this lever right here, just up like that. So instead of flipping it around so these touch this like in dinosaur mode, you just collapse the legs up like that. And same over here. Nah, come on. Just get everything out of the way here first, and then just collapse the leg down. Just like that. Now this piece comes in with a piece sticking straight up the back like that. Kind of like it fits, again, a lot how it sits in dinosaur mode. And you can see where these will peg together here. So you fold those in. These pieces come up and actually sit. You can rotate this toe around. Sit right up along the back like this. And again, there's this little space right here that when you fold the foot up correctly, you can kind of sit right there in that tail piece. I do this earlier. Yeah, off to the side. The dinosaur head comes down, and you can lift it up a little bit. And again, this piece sits like that. Dinosaur head comes down and just kind of folds along the back there. These pieces, you can actually see there's a clip here that tabs into this piece right here. This little clip right here. You fold this piece down and around like that. I thought I had this sitting a little bit more coherently earlier. Maybe I got the tail piece in the wrong spot, but you basically just kind of fold the legs all up along to the side. Although, like I said, I did have this sitting a little bit more naturally, but you get all this folded up here. Will it fit like that? Oh, maybe this piece folded down. No. Well, however, you arrange it however you want. Because this piece should sit freely. Maybe it's like that. This piece should sit freely, kind of just off to the side here, but with enough room for this to come down. Did I rotate this around? Oh, there we go. Was it like this? No. Okay, indecision time. The foot's basically like that. And then you open it up, and you can see here, inside each side here, there's a couple little peg holes in there. You bring this up, and again, this is where I was talking about. You extend this up, it makes it a little easier to get it in there. Line it up with those peg holes, peg it in, snap these two halves together, which in and of itself can be a little bit of a tricky proposition because there's all sorts of little pegs that, oh, a little clear piece came out. There we go. Pegs and tabs inside the leg. Come on, get up in there. There we go. And tab the feet together. Just collapse the whole thing down. See that little piece of flash came off. Not flash, but a little detail piece. It doesn't look like it was glued in. It looks like it's just held in place by friction. Interesting. This one come off too? Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah. See, I got it twisted. Well, you get the gist of it. Give me 1 second. I'll get it all clipped together and I'll show off. All right. And here's footwear. I spared you some fiddling there. Now, part of the problem is, and it was one of the things I was going to mention in the review anyway, as you saw with the issue. One, the tail actually folds back in like this. These pieces don't sit up flat. They fold down like that, and that allows the tail to sit over them here. And then the head just kind of comes down like that. And these arm pieces actually peg in up here on the sides. There's a couple little pegs on each side that allow the upper arms to peg in so you know where where they're supposed to sit. And there's the leg mode. Now, the problem with the leg mode, like I said, aside from getting it all locked in, that's the real big issue, is getting it locked around this foot. And part of the problem is you can see there's still a little bit of a gap here. There's a tab right here. You can kind of see just inside there that locks together, or should lock together. The feet lock together. The foot itself pegs into each side of the leg. And then these gray pieces peg together back here. And the problem is there's also on the flat surface on the inside of the leg here, and actually I can show you on the busted one. You can see right here on the inside of the leg, there's these two pegs right here that need to peg in over here. And it's a very tight peg. And the problem is, it's not, like, even if you get them lined up properly, when you have everything, when this is down here, there's nothing behind this peg piece to really allow you to get enough pressure on there to peg those together from the outside. If you could get your finger behind here while transforming them, you can kind of squeeze these two together, but these pegs are just really tight over here, and getting everything to lock together, like see even here without the foot, just getting this whole thing to get lined up right and to lock together is getting those pegs here in the middle of the leg. There's no way to apply direct pressure to them. Like this tab right here, you can push together from the outside. On the back, you know, like anything that pegs together in the back, you can push together, like these two pegs right here. You can kind of push together from the outside. And those pegs are right in the middle of the leg, and they have just a little bit of give to them. So as you're trying to squeeze it together, they don't want to go together, and they pop it apart just enough. Now you can, as you can see, get it enough together where it will move on the foot, although it is kind of starting to pop apart there. And that's my only real issue with the toy in and of itself. Now you could probably get in here. It has this that nothing here really moves in a way that lets you get in there to push those two pegs together once you've got everything else configured for leg mode. And it's hard to get anything else done with once those two are, you can't peg those together and then do everything else because of the way things move around in there. So it's a one minor issue. You can get it very solid. Like I don't feel like this leg is going to fall apart. If it were in combined mode, it would stay just fine. I don't know how many people are going to keep it, are going to transform it a lot between the two modes. The figure itself, I love the robot mode. I think it's nice. The dinosaur mode is cool and big. And you can see, again, here's Rid Grimlock. Just to show you how big this foot is. This foot is massive. And this is just, you know, the lower leg here and the foot. Like, this is going to be a giant combiner, and I'm curious to see it all put together, because this is just like from the knee down, basically. And it's, it's taller than even the standard deluxe. Actually, here's a Coke can. Just to give you an idea of how big this is to a standard Coke can. It is a massive foot. So this is going to be one big mamma jamma. It's got a lot of mass to it. I'm curious to see the whole thing completed. Like I said, dinosaur mode is neat. You can heavily arm him with all the various weapons. The robot mode is nice. I like that you've got a little bit more options for displaying those back wings than you do on the other sludges that have been released so far from the other companies. But like I said, my one real sticking point is getting this foot mode together. This little piece did pop off during the video. It looks like it just kind of friction holds in there. There may be a little tack of glue. I didn't see any glue on this. Maybe it's supposed to be tacked with a little glue. It doesn't come off for any other reason. That's just a factory thing. That's not anything wrong with the figure itself. Construction-wise or design-wise, it just needs to be tacked down with a bit of glue. So yeah, is it worth it? We're getting a lot of Dinobots. And like, while I am collecting all the snarls from all the lines, like you've got to pick a line you're going to go with. If you want this, you're going to get some big Dinobots, some very well posable Dinobots, and a huge Dinobot combiner for a little bit more than you're paying for some of the other figures. It's a nice figure. I like the design. Like I said, I do wish there were a little bit better way to get it concentrated and put all together here on the foot in a more solid manner, or at least a little slightly easier manner. But aside from this one, getting this lower half together in foot mode, the transformation between robot mode and dinosaur mode is nice. It's intuitive. It's got some neat little twists without being overly gimmicky. It's not so involved that it gets frustrating. The only point of frustration I've had with this thing, like I said, is getting there. You do need to be careful of the robot mode neck, because, like I said, it is a very, very thin, small pin in there, especially compared to the size of all the other joints. So you want to be careful not to have this snap off on you. But yeah, it's good. The quality is good. It's solid. It's very shiny. There's a lot of chrome all over it. You can kind of see it's already attracting a lot of fingerprints, just being what it is. And because it's chrome plastic, you know, the chromed parts do feel a little thinner than the rest of it. But it's a good, solid, sturdy toy. And if you're looking for like some giant Dinobots that also have the benefit of being a combiner, it's pretty cool. Again, it looks like most of the combiner kibble is separate pieces. So there's aside from this joint on the back, which you don't really notice, there's not a whole lot between the dinosaur mode and the robot mode that I feel is compromised for the sake of combining. That's certainly clear on Sludge here, or on Thunderous. Their snarl may be, since it's another foot, seems like it will probably be the same way. It's really going to come down to how they incorporate Grimlock's combining bits with being Grimlock. I think to make or break this set. And I'm sorry for ranting so long here. But yeah, I think it's a good, solid toy. It's neat. It's fun. It's another Dinobot line. It's up to you to decide, really, if you want to invest in yet another one of those. We've got 4 or 5 coming out right now. But all in all, I think it's a good, solid figure. It's worth picking up. I don't feel like, if you decide to choose this one, I don't feel like you're going to feel like you wasted your money. It's worth the expenditure or the price they're asking for it. So there it is, GCreation's Thunderous.